On the agenda tonight, we're going to be taking a look at Jewel performing a live a cappella version of Chime Bells. Hello, Phil here from Wings of Pegasus, and welcome to another analysis video. If you enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. So, we're going to be jumping into a bit of yodeling tonight. This was requested, this particular performance, with a mind to look at the pitch monitoring software while the yodeling's going on. So, this is Jewel, not an artist that I've heard of before. I think that yodeling isn't something that is particularly prevalent here in the UK, and I think because it stems from country music over in the USA, or at least I believe it does, and country music isn't a huge thing over here. But it's going to be interesting because we'll take a look at it and just dive into the technique of yodeling. So we'll jump into the performance. It's only about 3 minutes in length, so we'll watch it the whole way through, and then we'll get the pitch monitor on screen as well and analyze it. But let's get into it.
Up on a mountain, so gay and so free, there is a young man, he's waiting there for me. And out on the lake, we'll drift with the tide and hear those chime bells ring. And chime bells are ringing, yodelay-tee. Mockingbirds are singing, yodelay, yodelay-tee. Oh, hush, little lover, yodelay-tee. Oh, upon a summer's eve, yodelay-tee, yodelay, yodelay, yodelay-tee, yodelay, yodelay-tee, yodelay-tee, yodelay, yodelay-tee, yodelay-tee, yodelay-tee. Oh, moonbeams were shining as I kissed him there. Night birds were singing, perfume filled the air. Each little star, well, they twinkled above as heaven smiled on love. Oh, chime bells are ringing, yodelay-tee. Mockingbirds are singing, yodelay, yodelay-tee. Oh, hush, little lover, yodelay-tee. Oh, upon a summer's eve, yodelay-tee. Faster. You sickos.
And there we have it. So, the yodeling technique is something that is going to stick out definitely because it is so unique in that you're changing your vocal registers. So what's happening is when the voice ascends, you can either keep that vocal cord connection going and ascend with your range without flipping over into your head voice space. So when you're starting to sing, and this is something that I have never been able to do, and sometimes it's an advantage not being able to do this. I mean, for myself, singing rock and hard rock, if my voice flipped up into head voice and you heard this flip happen, it would just sound really bad because you want to have a connected sound the whole way through your range, or at least I did, and I wouldn't be able to do this anyway, even if I tried. If I were to try and do something like this, it would just be my voice going, I would just be going, delay, and just flipping, going, which isn't yodeling. I'm just doing that all in my same register. It's kind of bouncing up into head voice, but I'm not letting it flip into head voice. I'm controlling it the whole time so that it's going, Whereas, when you can't connect those notes, there's a flip that happens. If you do any kind of vocal program, they might have a section in there about the passaggio, which is when you're blending together, or at least it's when you're getting into another vocal register. For example, if you're starting in chest voice and you're quite low down here, and you go up, I'm now into a lighter head voice sound. But in order to go, in order to have that connection, you've got to cross over that space between your chest voice and your head voice. So, for people that can yodel, there's a flip that happens there where the voice isn't connected. And like I say, I've always done it like that. I don't know how to get my voice to flip into head voice without connecting it. If you do voice programs, and I've done them in the past, where they'll have a section on working through that passaggio and working through your break, which is basically what's happening with that flip over into head voice. This is something that you're gonna have to relax into if you want to yodel, because it is a total flip, and you can hear it's like the vocal cords momentarily just come apart but then snap back together when the air pressure equalizes and the vocal cords come together, and it just immediately goes into that head voice place rather than connecting the two registers together. If we're zoomed in as normal, it'll go right off the screen, the note that we do yodel up to. But we'll just have a quick listen to this yodeling phrase.
Bells are ringing, yodelling.
So that little jump that we had up there, we can see that we are around the C#4, and when we have this yodel that comes in, we go up to the C#5. So we actually go down to the B4 with that vibrato. So we've got that octave range going on here, and that's what's happening is because there's the flip of the octave, it means that those vocal cords are just coming apart and then snapping back together that octave higher. So it is so dramatic. When we compare this with other vocal analysis videos that we've done, you'll notice how we have an octave's worth of range within a whole song, and you might go from a verse into a chorus and have that gradual ascension to the octave higher. But here we're literally getting it in a split second, and this is why it just stands out. If we're being really strict here, we're not covering an octave's worth of notes with the yodel. The note before this, the C#4, is a little lead up to the yodel, and then we start on the D#4. Then we can see in this space, this is where the vocal cords come apart and then snap back together to hit the C#5. So we're actually a tone off being the full octave, because the full octave would be the D#5 up here.
We'll drift with the tide and hear those chime bells ring.
Interestingly as well, she goes into almost a lowered larynx, more nasal sound, which she goes more, rather than rather than making it bright. She's just covering that sound. I'll just let it play through, because you will notice that throughout this performance.
Chime bells are ringing, yodelling.
You see the way that she just tilts her head forward as if to allow the tilt in her voice to happen to release it up into head voice.
Bells are ringing, yodelling.
And then she actually keeps it down when she's holding that note in head voice.
Mockingbirds are singing, yodelling, yodelling. Oh, hush, little lover, upon a summer's eve.
And again, that kind of sound in her voice, just closing it off. The other thing to point out, even though it's not really to do with yodeling, but just technique in general, the way that we've got this left hand that is always on the move from Jewel. So she brings it up into positions, and this is just probably a subconscious thing that she does in order to pick out her notes and to get particular sounds in her voice. Like when she does go to that covered sound, you can see she lifts up her left hand, and it just gives you an indication of how she's getting her vocal cords. This is what a lot of singers do. They just make their hand into particular shapes depending on the sound they want, because they're visualizing their vocal cords and thinking of sometimes the tips of their fingers, as I've mentioned in other analysis videos. They just touch them together lightly when they want a lighter sound, and when they're going a little bit deeper, they might move their hand down, and they'll start to maybe move their hand up and down if they're doing a run vocally. So just have a look at the left hand here.
The moonbeams were shining as I kissed him there. Night birds were singing, perfume filled the air. Each little star, well, it twinkled above as heaven smiled on our love. Oh, chime bells are ringing, mockingbirds are singing. Oh, hush, little lover.
And still, I mean, it's a shame that we don't get this wide shot for the whole performance, because that hand is always coming up to exactly the same place. You can look out for it with other singers when they are singing, and then I go, and they're not going to make it that dramatic and put vibrato in there going, like that. But that is in the same place. It's almost like having a vertical keyboard that you are playing the notes on, where the higher notes are higher up, and the hand will just move up a little bit to flow up to those notes and then come down to that final note to finish off the run. So really interesting to see just these hand movements. Even when she starts to put it down by her side, it comes straight back up again. I would say that when Jewel is yodeling later on in the performance, even that is happening so quickly that I think even the human ear can't pick it up, because at the end, I can't hear the notes. It just sounds like more of just a blend of vocal technique of flipping between registers with no real time spent on individual notes. So this is going to be one of the first sections just slowed down. And there we have it. Another thing is that you might not notice the ear and the brain, when you hear it up to speed, it fills in all of the gaps for you, because when we're looking at the pitch monitor here, there are some notes that are actually a semitone flat. So it's the wrong note that she's hitting, but because it's so fast, when you listen to it in real time, you don't notice it. I'll just take it back and we'll have a listen. There, good example there. We had the D5, but it should have been the D sharp 5. And because the lines have been squashed just to get it all on screen, that would be even more dramatically out than it looks here. Another thing just to point out about this first yodeling section is that she has her eyes closed the whole time, so she actually brings her hand up into that same position. So she's just concentrating, visualizing for this first section the notes that she wants to hit, and then getting her vocal cords to do exactly what she wants them to do. We'll just have a listen to the second to last yodeling section, because I think the first time through, even for me, it was still too fast for me to pick up the notes, but we'll listen to it in half time. And there we have it. So you can pick out the notes a little bit more easily. We'll jump back to the original and listen to it at full speed. I'm just going to stop it there because this is why yodeling just stands out as a vocal technique. Not only because of the range, but because it's a totally different vocal register. Right at the end there, where Jewel stops singing, stops yodeling, and then talks, it's almost like you're surprised, or at least I am, that she talks like that, because the voice we've been hearing is almost of another entity. It's not her voice. And then let's listen to her just talking at the end.
Should I go faster?
It's a total disconnect from the voice that we've just heard. But that is the point, because when people talk, they don't yodel. So when they're allowing this flip to happen, yodeling, it's going to sound totally different to somebody's talking voice, and it really is just its own thing. You'll also notice how we have that change of vowel when we go up. It's very much into an E, where we have the and you want to flip between those two, like that, kind of like that. I can't yodel, but if you were trying to do it, I would say at least start with the right vowels to give yourself a bit of a chance to separate that head voice from then coming back down into your chest voice and just allowing that flip to happen. But an interesting one to look at tonight, and it is a cappella. I haven't isolated the vocal. This was the performance, so it is crystal clear. There is nowhere to hide. We really get to hear every single note. So Jewel just showing off her vocal ability to be able to flip into that head voice. And I did check out Elton Britt, who is type that into YouTube if you do get a chance, because it's Chime Bells Are Ringing. I think I'm probably going to have to do an analysis video on Elton in the future, because, he just blew my mind while I was just listening to yodeling and just doing a few searches on YouTube, because, of course, that's what I did after checking out Jewel for the first time. But, yeah, check out Elton Britt if you do get a chance on YouTube. Anyway, thank you guys for requesting this video for me to take a look at. Let me know what you guys think. As always, keep those suggestions coming in the comment section below. And if you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. And I'll see you guys at the next one. Rock!